name is Darwin, and flying is a big part of my life. I aspire to become an airline pilot, and I'm working on a pilot's license right now. The problem for people like me is that airline travel is getting fought against, and there's actually a whole call to ban airlines and flying travel because of the big cause of pollution it has, or so they say. People are getting guilt-tripped out of flying in Europe and turning the media's view against aviation. And these facts and the bias aren't true. We see the biasness in where people are getting their information. The numbers actually state otherwise. So I believe that the argument against banning of airline travel should be highly reconsidered because the percentage of actual cause that the airline travel has on the environment over the carbon emissions, the over-exaggeration biasness specifically on the airline industry against it, and the solutions actually already being put in place to lower those numbers even more than what they are now. So let's get started. As one usually argues a point, numbers are very big involved. The same is the case here. There is a whole argument for percent. Author Dan Rutherford, in his online article, Should You Be Ashamed of Flying? Probably not, breaks down the numbers to show how much of a carbon footprint a single person has on flying. Worldwide, 918 million tons of carbon emissions were in 2018. Of that, 182 million tons of CO2 was from the United States airports. Statistics from World Bank show us that tourism flows in and out of the United States at the same rate. So we count that 182 million tons on U.S. citizens. Divided by American passengers, you get 550 kilograms of CO2 per person per year. That seems like a lot, but the total emissions of a person per year is about 16 tons, and not everyone flies. So there's no need to worry about losing your trip to see your relatives if it's just 1 or 2 trips a year because you're worried about the carbon emissions it has on the environment. So these biggest arguments against flight actually use these same statistics, but they are highly over-exaggerated. One renowned name against pollution in general is the then 16-year-old Greta Thunberg from Sweden. And side note, I have no problem against people fighting against pollution, but you have to do it the right way with correct moral values. This was not the case when she launched #FlyScam in 2018. This word, or hashtag, translates to flight shame in Swedish. People were pretty much bullying and harassing and just shaming people out of flying on the airlines and the industries in a whole, that some airlines actually had to cancel flights or just discontinue themselves altogether. And I don't see a point for that. True, the numbers I shared in the last point are big, but it's all about seeing the bigger picture. James Ackwith shows us in his article, The Spread of Flight Shame in Europe, is Greta Thunberg the reason why? Aviation actually only contributes to 2% of total emissions. And I quote him, even if global aviation were to reduce their emissions by 50%, this would only reduce global carbon emissions by 1%. Fast fashion accounting by 8% of carbon emissions, and the food industry accounting for 25% of emissions might be a better place for us to look at changing dramatically as well, end quote. All of this bad hype against the aviation industry blindly covers up the problems that are bigger and could have more done to them to lower the release of carbon emissions. But instead, we see the airline industry getting spotlighted in a bad light for the pollution it causes. But we see that in the aviation industry, solutions are actually already being put in place. United Airlines is a major runner of this. We see them using better fuel-efficient airplanes, better biofuel, fewer products that will be wasted. And that was actually back in 2015. Now in modern 2021, just this past week, we see them run a whole flight on this new reused fuel, and practically all the airplanes now are the Eco Sky kind with this type of protections and limitations put in place for how much carbon they can use or release. So I want you guys to realize that aviation isn't the only problem in the pollution industry. Working on preventing pollution and flying for better eco airlines, being aware of other problems, and striving for a better, cleaner world is some of the things that I am asking you guys to do. So in conclusion, I believe that the argument against banning of airline travel should be highly reconsidered because of the spotlight put onto the aviation industry in a bad light, the percentages that actually show that it's really not that bad compared to other ones, and the solutions already being put in place for the airline industry. So this isn't about an argument against the fact that air pollution doesn't exist or shouldn't be fought against. This is an argument about getting rid of air pollution in the most proper way possible without affecting the most people in a negative way. And it's not about getting rid of flying or making it better, or not getting rid of flying, but just making it better in a better way for all of us. So I say we should all be in favor of making the world a better place, the right way.